Guys, we are at 5 minutes after the hour, which means we are jumping in. All right, I'm so glad to have all of you here with us today. I'm Sierra. I'm going to be your host for the day. We're going to kick it off with a quick hype video about Ivory. All right, with that, Ivory is live. Thanks, Wes, so much for that video. And if you didn't catch everything there, don't worry. We're going to do a live demo where you'll get to see it more in detail. Right, again, I'm Sierra Adkins. I'm your host for the launch party for Ivory, our Adobe Tags co-pilot, and we are Moonbird. We are so excited to have you here with us. All right, so a bit of housekeeping. If you have questions, comments, any thoughts, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll have some dedicated Q&A sessions to address those questions that you put there. Make sure to stay on mute for the most part until we get to those sections, but feel free to have your cameras on. Love to see your faces. Just an FYI, this is being recorded. We will be sending it out within the week. And additionally, we will be doing some polls throughout. Your responses will help to shape the future of Ivory. And so here's what you can look forward to. We're going to get started with a live demo because we know that's what most of you are here for. Then we'll be introducing Ivory and its features more in depth. Then we'll get into our fireside chat with the creators of Satellite, Michael and Evan. And then at the end, we will just have an open discussion and we'll do our raffle for those AirPod Pros. And of course, that's only for the people who stick around through the end. If you're not here, we're going to spin the wheel again and we'll find someone who's still on the call. Awesome. And with that, we are going to jump into our live demo. I'll pass it over to Mark and Wes to get us started.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Thank you, Sierra. My name's Wesley Huth. I'm one of the partners here at Moonbird AI. We've been hard at work building Ivory, our AI-powered Adobe Tags Copilot. We have a strong feeling that the future of analytics is AI-centric. The future of data collection and digital analytics and the work that we do in this space is AI-centric. And Ivory is a leap in that direction. We've been working on this tool as implementers that are very acquainted with the problems in the implementation workflows and processes, the tooling that exists today. Everyone that has worked on the tool is someone that is well acquainted with the work, well acquainted with the problems. We have a collective experience of, I think it's 50 years in the space, the team that's worked on Ivory and developing this product. So high level, what is Ivory? It is a co-pilot for implementers. It is meant to give superpowers to those that work in Adobe Tags, not sideline those resources or those individuals, but to actually 10x, 25x your efficiency. And we're going to show you some of what it can do that that can fulfill that kind of efficiency gain. Broad brushstrokes. We now have the ability to implement bulk updates, bulk creations across all of your Adobe Tags properties, the ability to implement with natural language. You saw it in the promo video there, but creating rules with natural language. If you can describe it, we can create it in Adobe Tags. If you can describe it, you can update the tags that exist today in Adobe Tags. So it's something we're very, very proud of, integrating AI into the workflow where it has not yet been integrated. Mark, do you know what day tomorrow is?
I do. It's Saturday.
That's true. But more specifically, today's Friday, February 13th. Do you know what tomorrow is?
The day after the live demo, 14th. Yeah,
Yeah, you're married close to 20 years or more, right? So tomorrow being Valentine's
amazingly.
Day, Mark, and you not remembering, you probably want to get some flowers and chocolate for your lovely wife, right?
I do. I do.
Yeah,
I do.
you're
Right
going to
after
want to
this
do
meeting.
that. And you're not going to have time after this meeting because you have a huge task list to get through by the end of this meeting, actually, before the end of this meeting. Why don't you pull that up? Okay, we've got an enormous task list here that you've got to accomplish. How long would you say that something like this might take a human to do?
Easily 20 to 40 hours. Um, yeah, 20 hours, no problem. But they don't
20
need to be
hours, no
done
problem.
until next week, right? That new site is good.
So you've got to
The data
implement,
layers.
yeah, why don't you talk us through a few of the things that you've got to do here?
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple of things we can do today pretty quickly. I got to tag a link on the Ivory page, make sure that event 12 is being set correctly. That's not a big deal, but the other implementing this data layer spec or all the tagging for it is going to take a second. It's, you know, developers are doing going through all that, but I got a list of all the things down here that need to get done. But yeah, that's going to take a little while. It's a good thing we have Ivory.
Yeah, and it's a good thing you're going to get started right now. Why don't you start with the low-hanging fruit and show us what Ivory can do?
All right. So Ivory is, if I can get to it, is hiding over in another window. All right. So Ivory is the business end of it is a browser extension loaded here on the side. There is a backend configuration. The first task on my list is to tag a link on our page. There's a lot of different features. We're not going to get into all of them. We're of course going to have we have a YouTube channel with a lot of things recorded and a lot of help documentation to walk through. So we're just going to do some quick things right now. But it's active when you're browsing, when it's open. So we can do things like capture attributes or elements from a web page, which is the first task on my list to go and tag this download white paper button. So to do that, I'm going to have to create some new rules, and I'm going to have to set Ivory to its context to the property that I want it to manipulate. And I'm going to add that element and go to start to create this rule. So Ivory's going to work with whatever context you give it. It will never publish anything, and it's going to, in this case, tag this rule. So I'm going to go through a prompt library. So we have templates in here. I have some, so this has saved me some typing for the demo. And I'm going to add a rule that fires on the click of the button that I've added to its context, set a couple of events, evars, set the text of the button to an evar, do all those things and set a clear bars at the end. So I only picked one element. We have an ability within Ivory to scan an entire page, create a whole plan based off of all the data, or, all kinds of elements on the page. I could have clicked all kinds of things. Now this task is just around DOM manipulation. Ivory will work with data layers and things. You'll see that in a few minutes. But yeah, so this one, just to keep it nice and quick, I'm going to go and make this change. It will give approval, so it won't do anything without approval in its current form. So it gives users a lot of control over what we're going to do here. So it added a click event. It added an action on the click event. We're going to approve that. It created the download type of click event to send the data to Adobe Analytics like we want it. It has the clear variables that we want it. So I allowed all those things. And I will go and upload or add those to this Moonbird property. I can go and see what it's done here. So it added a click event with the selector of the button that we wanted there. It set variables that we wanted. It and sent the beacon to download white paper. I'm going to keep moving here in the
So talk to us about what that would be at scale. So, we could see the power in one rule there, but are you saying that through natural language and just right clicking on elements on the page, we can tag a whole page a way that we used to have to do very manually?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you have complete control over what it's doing. So you can modify things, you can, make very small, minute changes or very large changes with natural language. And the next thing is we want to go and add event 12 everywhere event 5 is set. So again, I'm going to do that in the same property. So we have integrated search, I will spell it right, in Ivory with Adobe's new advanced search, which we're very happy they added. So we're integrating with that. So I can quickly find out where EVAR 5 is, and I will add all of those elements to context. I'm going to get rid of that button from before. Select all of these rule components in this case. You could add rules, components, actions, anything, any data elements to context for Ivory. And now I'm going to update these according to our task. Again, save myself a little bit of typing, but there's not much here. Just set event 12 in custom code. So I'm going to do it in custom code if EVAR 5 has a value. Not going to do it in the UI. That will automatically send event 12 everywhere. We want it to be conditional. So let's see what Ivory does. Now in here, there's a couple of different actions. There's traditional set variables. One of the gnarly ones in here is this custom code block. So this is kind of the legacy way, not using the user experience or things like that to send data to Adobe. It's all hard coded, old school ways of doing that. And so Ivory's capable of ingesting all this code, reverse engineering it, getting down to the root of what's happening in here. And if we want event 11, which isn't or event 12, which isn't in this list, to be set when EVAR 5 is set, it needs to know where to place that in here, add appropriate comments and whatnot, versus some other places. And I can go through what
Mark,
those
wouldn't you
other.
say though that all implementers are really fluent with JavaScript and could tackle that big block of code just really easily without Ivory?
They could. It would take time. So some could. Some, if you've been around for a while, you'll understand what that code's doing. A lot of people are only using the user experience now, and so Ivory understands both new ways and old ways of doing this. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to approve it, and we'll look through what it did after the fact. So it's run. I'll go back to that custom code block and let's see what it did. So there's some gnarly stuff in here. Where did you go? Event 11, event 12. You're in here. Oh, the curse of the live demo. All right, fine. We are going to I'm going to expect what it did.
But what you're even describing is that Event 12 or Ivory being able to inject across custom code components, UI components, however you have it set, and there it is in line 53 there, Mark. And then being able to
Yeah,
conditionalize
thank
and
you.
understand when and how it needs to build conditions into the code. In some places you're not going to need conditions, but in some places you are, and Ivory's able to adapt and understand exactly what's going on across those.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Enhanced variable tracking.
Yeah, I think you just
Uh,
forgot to refresh the page, but there it is on the left there.
yeah. Yeah. No, I see it. Yeah. I was wondering how it would do. So I would be smart enough to know, smarter than me apparently, and have better eyes than me to see that this was already done, and it would come back and say, well, I don't have to do anything. It's already done. It's already conditional on that, and it wouldn't have missed it like I did. So yeah, yeah, it thoroughly understands. You can do targeted changes to your code base, or you can do pretty whole scale refactors of everything in custom code. You could take all of these rules in custom code and manipulate them, push them into the user experience. So there'd be the more traditional way of implementing if you wanted to. It has it has an in-depth understanding and appreciation for what our implementers are doing day to day. So thank you for pulling that up, for pointing that out.
No, excellent,
Um,
excellent.
so I've done a couple of these things, but now I got to go and implement that, fairly typical but not small data layer spec. Again, create all these data elements and map all these rules. So I'm gonna get to work,
Yeah, why don't you get back to it?
because
We want
Valentine's
this
Day
done
is tomorrow, and yeah, I need
before
to
the
get some
firesides
flowers.
before the fireside chat starts, Mark. We
Oh,
want
so like
all of
not
this
by
done.
Monday,
Not by
by the
Monday. We want
fireside
it all
chat.
done before the fireside chat starts. And any of you that are curious to watch along as Mark continues through these tasks, we're going to have him continue implementing in another screen. Sierra will show you how to access that here in a second. But if you want to follow along, by all means, tune in to Mark if you want to watch him implement through that entire list, which truly would be a 20 to 40 hour effort. And he's going to have it done before the fireside chat here. Thank you, Mark. Sierra?
Thanks so much, Mark. Hope you guys enjoyed that. So before we keep moving, we're gonna put out a little poll just to start getting you guys thinking about these things. So we'd love to know what tag managers you all use. I can go ahead and launch that one. You guys should see that coming through momentarily. If this is applicable for you, that is, if you're an implementer, if you're a current implementer or you've implemented before, which tag managers have you used? Are you currently using? Would love to know that. All right, gonna let you guys start doing that, and we're gonna keep it pushing through our presentation. All right, and again, like Wes mentioned, if you'd like to switch your screen share in Zoom and you want to see what Mark is doing, there should be some tabs at the top of your screen. You can switch between mine and Mark's. Awesome. So now that you've seen Ivory, I'd love to introduce you guys to our team. So this is Moonbird. If you haven't interacted with us other than through Ivory, we are an AI and analytics solutions company. We have a core 5-person team. We have Wes, who you just met, our founder and CEO. He's kind of our visionary behind so much of what we do. We have Mark Sawlor, our Chief Technology Officer and resident Adobe Experience Platform Ecosystem SME. There's me. I'm the chief innovation officer, kind of a jack of all trades, just kind of fitting in where I can, filling in all of the gaps. We have Grace Koplow, our head of growth, just the fire under us that keeps us moving all the time. And then we have Samir here, who is our principal software engineer and just an absolute wizard at everything that he does. Let me just quickly stretch my screen a little bit because I'm realizing you guys aren't seeing the entire thing. There we go. One
And
moment.
something
There
to
we
tag
go.
on to that is just this is the team that touches Ivory. This is the team that supports the product, debugs the product, implements new features. When you reach out to Moonbird, this is the team that is going to be on those efforts. So put a face to a name and just know that you're in good hands with this team.
Yeah, and we're a small, lean team, but powerful. And our goal as a company is to elevate how organizations operate by creating indispensable solutions. It's very important to us that once you start using the things that we build, you can't imagine life without them. That's really how we measure success. We just want the things that we build to be that helpful. And our purpose is to solve business problems through innovation, helping organizations work, scale, and compete in the age of AI. This applies to Ivory and beyond into our custom AI applications and analytics services as well. And now that you've learned a little bit about us, we'd love to learn a little bit more about you. Gonna send out another poll. Samir, if you queue that up, perfect. We'd love to know about your roles. And if you are implementers, once again, how long you've been doing this kind of work, or actually for everyone, how long have you been doing this kind of work? Awesome. I see answers coming through. That's perfect. Y'all can keep those coming. All right, so why are we here? We're here because analytics as a whole is struggling to reach this concept of excellence. If you see in this image that we have here, this is a poll that was done by June Dershowitz to understand how analytics teams are currently operating. And most of them are in this place of always firefighting, mostly reactive, and can't really find excellence. And so our core team has a combined 50 years, 50 plus years of experience in this analytics consulting world. We've seen a lot, as Wes mentioned. But currently, the way that AI applications are working, a lot of them are focused on analysis use cases, where tag management still hasn't evolved a lot. It's very tedious, still very manual and click heavy. And you have your smartest people spending hours and hours in configuration screens instead of on things like strategy. Because for the most part, as many of you probably know, implementers are typically the same people who are often tasked with doing analysis as well. And so they're playing catch up, they're firefighting, but we see with Ivory and tools of the like a clear path to foundational analytics excellence. Um, and with that, we're not going to hit you with too many polls. These are just all back to back. They just made sense for this part of the presentation. So we have another one. We want to understand where you're primarily using AI in your work today and which part of tag management typically takes most of your time. Just keeping you guys engaged. All right, so with that, what is Ivory? And we've gotten into this a little bit. Ivory is our AI-powered implementation co-pilot for Adobe Tags. You describe what you need in natural language. You saw Mark doing that. Maybe you're still watching Mark doing that on the other screen. It doesn't replace Adobe Tags. It doesn't replace your tag manager. It works alongside you and your existing implementation. It's meant to give implementers superpowers, not sideline them. Think Tony Stark. This makes you Tony Stark, and this makes Ivory your Iron Man suit. You still need Tony Stark in the suit. All right, so Ivory, how it works. Fundamentally, this is a new way to interact with your data collection. Your new workflow can be simplified into these four core features. We have search, which is piggybacking off of Adobe's advanced search, which is pretty new as of the last couple of weeks. Originally, we did have our own proprietary search, but we'll probably add that back in some capacity so that we can have capabilities like semantic search, where you could say, find all rules with data element references or something like that. Then there's the select piece. This is about adding context to your workspace. Context is the word that comes up a lot in the world of generative AI, context windows, context engineering, and it's just as important here. It defines not only what Ivory can see, but also the scope of what can be updated, which is very, very important, that it can only touch the things that you bring into your workspace. And then prompting, of course, another familiar phrase for anyone who's used any sort of chatbot. You describe what you need, Ivory translates that to action, and then we have the review step. And this is how we make sure that Ivory isn't making updates without your approval. You approve, deny, or modify before anything gets sent to your property. And so why is this even revolutionary? You know, if you're not in this world, you're not really close to tag managers. We are. It is very clear to us that Ivory is revolutionary today, and this is just the beginning. And so what does that look like today? Today we have faster time to value. Your time to value is measured in minutes instead of days, like Mark was saying. Tasks that would take you 20 hours, you can get done in maybe a half an hour. So we have the possibility for best practices to be applied at scale. Everything's reviewable and auditable. You're not having to dig through everything and take hours just to find the problem. And it's not only accessible to your experts like Mark, it's accessible to your entire team. And in the near future, this is what we're really, really so excited about, is that self-healing implementations, of course, with human in the loop, are within reach. Your documentation can become your source of truth. Imagine a world where Ivory is able to start detecting issues on the page. It can trigger a review of the implementation, review the documentation that it already has access to, propose a fix. And so by the time that you clock in the morning, that fix is already in the approval queue. That's when things start to get really exciting. So it's this proactive quality assurance, and we're really, really not far from it. It's not science fiction. It's not some amorphous future 10, 20 years down the line. This future is very, very clearly within reach, and we have a clear path to that. And with that, I'm gonna just kick off. I think this is our final poll of the day. We want to understand, if Ivory could cut your implementation time in half, what would you do at that time? And if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing about tag management right now, what would it be? This might help to inform some of what comes in the future for Ivory if we know what you guys want. Awesome. And so integration and governance. Our team has been in the trenches as implementers as we've spoken. I was an implementer for 8 or 9 years before kind of switching over to the role that I'm currently in. And we understand that in order to have something that functioned in practice, integration and governance were essential. So what do we mean by that? It's Ivory is fully integrated. It works with your tags or launch as is. You don't need any extensions. There's no vendor lock-in. If for some crazy reason we don't anticipate you decide you don't want to use Ivory anymore, you're not locked in at all. And additionally, it's safe and governed. Ivory doesn't publish. It's always you. It doesn't pass any of your data through that you're collecting. It only has access to Adobe Tags, and no changes can go live without approval. All right. Thank you guys so much for all your interaction on these polls. It's been great. And with that, we've kind of hit a good stopping point. We're 30 minutes in. I think it's a great time to start hitting some Q&A. We'd love to hear from you guys. It's a great time to also, if you need bio breaks, get a new cup of tea, coffee. We'd love to start hearing from you guys before we get into that fireside chat and before we check back in with Mark to see how things are going. So feel free to raise your hands or questions in the chat, and we can start to get some conversation going. We have about 10 minutes before we'll check in with Mark and then head over to the fireside chat. All right. I think the first question, the first hand I'm seeing is Neil. Neil, you want to unmute?
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Fantastic demo. Fantastic solution. Actually, you were able to answer the first one in terms of it being able to, let's say, QA itself. I find that fascinating just because I guess in a simple use case, company pops on a new web page, and in simple terms, they create a tag that mysteriously fires 4 other tags that shouldn't be firing. So having that ability to kind of, let's call it, self-correct, that's huge. Because to try to troubleshoot that kind of nightmare could take hours. I guess my other question real quick is, how does it handle forms? Because I think we all know forms are never a one-size-fits-all solution.
Did you say forms, Neil?
Yeah.
Like implementing tracking on forms that might exist on a web page?
Yeah, in simple terms, they could use one form solution on one web page, a different form solution on another web page, because the developer does whatever they want.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I understand correctly, however you would implement on for that use case today as a human, Ivory's capable of stepping in and implementing based on how the human wants to implement tracking there. So if it's, going to be separate forms and you're concerned about governance across kind of, you have one dev team handling it on this site, another dev team handling it on this site, and the forms are different. And we want to make sure the problems that exist in data governance and processes like that today are are going to exist in some way, shape, or form moving forward. But Ivory can step in and help with navigating those implementation tasks a lot faster. When it comes to the self-healing dynamic that we are experimenting with and have on the roadmap, in a scenario where you've got variables that are firing on both of those forms and one of them drops off, Ivory would be able to detect that and then propose a fix or implement a fix that it then submits for approval. And that's not an unusual use case to imagine happening for sure.
Thanks.
We do have some questions in the chat, Sierra, as well.
Yeah, feel free
Um,
to call some of them out, Wes.
Sure. We've got Jose Davila is asking, I see you're currently working for Adobe platform. Are you planning to expand to support others? And if so, would we be able to handle migration from platform to another one? So one thing to call out on that, today you can handle migrating using Ivory from another tag manager. So if you're using Telium or GTM, Google Tag Manager, if you're using Inciton, good luck. If you're using Inciton, if you can describe the tracking, or if you can provide that tracking that exists now, Ivory can implement it faster than a human combing through those tags and figuring out how to get it over and translate it into Adobe Tags language. So today, migration effort is possible through just describing what's happening in your other implementation. We do have features coming soon where it'll streamline that a lot easier, and you won't even have to manually interact with Ivory through typing and explaining and things like that. You could click and drag components from a Telium implementation and see them migrate, a GTM implementation, see it migrate. So that's on the horizon for sure. In terms of implementing in other tag managers, that's something that's on the roadmap as well at some point. And stay tuned and watch for that. Eric Matisoff, Mark is doing a lot with EVARs and props and success events and app measurement the old implementation way. Is Ivory compatible with Web SDK and AEP? The answer to that is yes, it is. It is beautifully compatible. Anything you can do in Adobe Tags today, Ivory is compatible with. So anything you can configure in tags, you can use Ivory to configure. And we have some really exciting features that orbit around the Web SDK use case as well, that we'll be demonstrating in some way, shape, or form at some point. Is Ivory going to take control of Adobe Launch, or is it neutral 50-50? We always want human in the loop. We believe that the expertise of humans empowered by AI is the sweet spot. We're not looking to build something that is going to replace humans or take autonomy in a way that would be counterintuitive to those efforts. So that's where we're at today. Who knows where the world is at in 5 years? We're probably all hybridized AI human people. So good luck as you navigate that. And looks like, would Ivory help me create a workflow that I can work with my UI developers to provide them a data layer spec documentation that they can implement? Instead of custom coding, would Ivory help me create a workflow that I can work with my UI developers to provide them? So one thing today, Ivory doesn't have integrated into it today what we will have soon, which is an ideating chatbot that you could use in the back end of Ivory. And the goal there would be for scenarios like this: create data layer specs for this scenario, generate an SDR off of my implementation, help me understand how I should implement this for this specific use case. And through those ideating sessions, it can create build plans that then you just go click a button and build. So that's coming. Today, we don't have Ivory configured to create data layer specs and things like that. How good is Ivory at cornhole? Remarkable. Uh, I got all aces and cornholes when I did it with Ivory last time I played cornhole with Ivory. So yeah, huge.
All right. Thank you, Wes. Thank you, everyone, for all of your questions and just great commentary in the chat. I think that's a great time for us to check in with Mark. Mark, how are you doing?
You're on mute, Mark.
My mute, other than being able to figure out mute, I'm doing pretty good. I'm in a much better place. Most importantly, I have some I have some important hardware behind me, but I'll get to that in a second. Yeah, so in the site, we're done the list. So for those who are watching, implemented from the new data layer, created all the data elements successfully on mass, and spot checked a bunch of them, created the consent management data element just individually, created all of the rules, components of the rules, events, all in one prompt. It was like the prompt. The copy and pasting took a
Awesome.
while to get it from my document, but most importantly, I had enough time while it was doing that to make a phone call and take care of things that are more important than tags. Although I know you're going to hate me for saying that.
So you've got flowers for your wife now, and
And
you
some chocolates.
and some chocolate and
I
some Oreos.
Maybe these chocolates, but I mean,
Ah.
really, I go all out. I don't hold back,
So
for
Mark, can
little
you
things.
repeat? Did you say that you were able to implement that entire data layer spec, which was numerous rules and about 30 data elements in a single prompt?
Yeah, yeah, it was one prompt. I mean, it was two prompts. It was one prompt. The data elements. I broke it up into two, so that it wasn't just one prompt. It could have been one prompt, but broke it into two just to kind of move around and orient people around different features of the tool. But yeah, yeah. I mean, that took 4 minutes. We'll speed it up.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Mark. Let's jump back into it. All right. So, and finally, if you guys enjoyed Mark's demo, we're going to do a little sneak peek of a feature that we have in beta at the end of this. So make sure you stick around for that. And this is the moment that I've been most excited about coming into this party. So we're gonna have a conversation with the creators of Satellite. If you don't know what Satellite is, it's what became DTM, which became Adobe Launch, went through a bunch of all these name changes, which eventually became Adobe Tags. Before we bring in Evan and Michael, I'd love for Wes and Mark again to set the stage a little bit. We're going to have Wes talk a little bit about what was our motivation for bringing in these two to come and talk to us. And then Mark is going to give a little bit of historical context because Mark has been here both pre DTM launch tags and now post and here for the future of what it becomes. So Wes, can you kick us off?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, we really thought a lot about how we wanted to launch Ivory into the world and how we wanted to bring it to the industry. And as we talked about it, there were a number of ideas that were floated, but it became really clear that we're standing on shoulders of innovators that have come before us in this space, individuals and teams and companies that have worked to build the industry to the point that it is today, where we're not all chiseling tags into tablets in a cave somewhere. So the exciting thing here that we really wanted to do was just have a conversation, give a little sneak peek behind the scenes of what it was like at that time when tag managers were coming to be. That's very normal work and very normal tooling for us today, but it wasn't always that way. And so we reached out to Evan and Michael, and both of them were very keen to have the conversation. And one thing I'm really excited about, even for myself, a lot of us haven't had an opportunity to rub shoulders with these guys and know what it was like when the industry was transitioning and hit this huge milestone. So we wanted to pay homage to that. And we wanted to also just give something to the community that you don't normally get. You don't normally get this kind of peek behind the curtain of how things were at that time and what it felt like from people that were boots on the ground in those scenarios. So, Mark, tell us a little about the history of it, and then we'll get into the fireside chat.
Yes, thank you for subtly implying my age. I've been doing digital analytics basically exclusively for over 20 years. I mean, Evan and I knew each other long before, like way back in the caveman analytic days, where we were chiseling out raw JavaScript. There were some advanced solutions back then where people would try to combine these things and auto compile tags and things, but it was very manual and very primitive compared to modern tag managers. Modern tag managers gave us a face to all that implementing and made it much more accessible to marketers and things, and gave us a scale and a consistency to our operations that just you couldn't imagine going back. I'm sure there are some companies out there, they are outliers to be sure, that still do this by hand. Good luck with that. But yeah, obviously it's evolved. So, to tie that together, we think that the introduction of AI into tag management and data collection, digital analytics data collection in particular, is a moment that once people start to get used to it, you won't want to turn back. It makes some of the monotony and some of the clicking that we have to do today, which was revolutionary and brought us, is vastly better than hand coding it, is going to seem pretty tedious after we move forward. We do hope that you enjoy Ivory. We do see it as a step forward in that realization of this AI dream. We have a whole lot planned for Ivory in the coming while. So anyway, we think that there's a similar moment. So yes, so thank you so much, Evan and Michael, for being here. You absolutely helped usher us into this current age, and you have a very relevant perspective. So thank you so much.
All right. And with that, Evan, Michael, can you guys introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about your connection to satellite? Michael, you're gonna kick us off for this one.
Yeah, well, hi everybody, and thanks so much for having me. I think probably before I get into that, I want to make a small clarification because I love history and I love accurate history. I did not have anything to do with the creation of satellite, but I was very involved as I got to know the product and was very excited about it. I think some of that is there. But anyway, so I'm Michael Helbling. I've been in the digital analytics space for a little over 21 years now. And my connection to satellite was I started seeing tag management pop up in the around the 2010 timeframe, and I met Evan LaPointe at a conference, and he started talking to me about this thing he was trying to build, and we had many conversations over the next year and a half that eventually led me to joining the company that he was one of the co-founders of, and I got the chance to help bring satellite to market as they were rolling it out. And I have the, I guess, unique distinction of being the person who led the very first Adobe Analytics deployment of satellite in production. So my little claim to fame was that when it was time, I got to be the first implementer of Adobe Analytics with that product, which there's many other people, even on this call, who probably deserve that privilege, who are way better at those things. But I was there when it happened, and so I got the opportunity, and it made it easy because it was also my very first Adobe Analytics implementation I had ever done. So satellite at that time was a sea change in terms of implementation, and then just fast forward to now, we're seeing how AI is enabling a sea change in implementation as well.
All right, Evan.
Yeah, I guess my connection to satellite is I invented it, but let me clarify. What I mean by that is I made something and then I showed it to people who were way more technically skilled than me. And one of the phrases that became very common around our company was, I think I see what you're trying to do here, which was kind of like a little homage to maybe there's something interesting that you're doing, but you're not really getting it right. Let me do it for you. So that's ultimately what made satellite satellite. I know you might have another question about kind of how it got started, but That's it. And yeah, I think watching it move from this little utility that I built over a weekend called GA Track This into something that actually had a front end that didn't break when you put the wrong comma in the wrong place. I remember having to wake up at 3 a.m. one time because my phone was ringing from London. I saved a file without a comma and took down a site in London for 4 hours before they woke me up. So yeah, those days,
It was a simpler
OG vibe
time.
coding days. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. That's perfect for kind of grounding us. Um, but yeah, I guess that's a great follow-in for you, Evan. You can kick us off with this one. What made you want to create Satellite? What was the catalyst for it?
Yeah, I would say the cleanest through line is I had enough time or was distracted enough from real work that I became a top 5 contributor to the Google Analytics forum in the world. And they gave me a special little badge, and that was the honor for spending like hundreds of hours on it. So I really got to know the ins and outs of GA's API. And then in addition to being a top 5 contributor to GA's forum, I was a top 1 contributor in the world to how bad S code was and complaining about it everywhere I possibly could, which is so ironic that Adobe ended up buying the company because I'm sitting in the room with people that I had been complaining about for 10 years, and they found the strength to look past it and acquire us. But that was kind of a funny and awkward moment. But I think it was really just the struggle, like the real world struggle that Mark showed. This like the same kind of quantum difference in this takes me like a trillion hours and I'm working against a lot of headwinds. And now in a weekend, I kind of built this little JavaScript utility for GA called GA Track This, and I would just build like a little config file, and it was basically saying, "This is what I want you to track." So I would define the this, and then GA Track This would track that, and it was really cool. And then I met this guy named Caleb Whitmore, who some of you guys might know, and he had written something similar, and it was better, and that kind of fanned the competitive flames to make something that kicked everybody's butts. And I guess the last thing I'll say, since I always have to get a jab in at Incitin, is that once I found out that Incitin had made something, there was a thing called Tagman out there. There was there were a handful of other things. Telium was kind of getting off the ground. Adobe had made something. Google had made something. I was like, okay, let's shutter this. They've probably made great stuff. And then we kind of started kind of signing ourselves up for demo of these other tools, and we were like, oh, this is hot garbage. Let's keep going. And we kept going, and we got bought, and the rest is history.
Perfect, Evan. Michael, anything quick to add there? I know you weren't creating it, but do you know anything about the catalyst?
Yeah, I mean, in my role prior to really getting involved, I was evaluating all of the tag management vendors in the space for the agency that I worked at the time. And I was watching, there was lots of companies trying to solve sort of this problem of deploying tagging and things like that. But it was about how it was being solved. And Satellite at that time clearly stood out as a more flexible and better approach to the problem from my perspective. And as a result, ended up in me joining the company after a little while.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight, the catalyst, like other people that are on this, like Rudy and I know Mark, and I'm gonna miss some people, and Jen. They were also catalysts, like in the flesh, in the sense that, hey, what do you think about this? Does this help you? And like, so the word creating was not a big bang. It was like a year and a half or more for it to actually be created. And I think that's the same that's true if you're here in this crowd, in this like Ivory era, let's call it. Um, the creating is happening, and you can all play the same role in that too. I think that's what's so cool about this stuff.
Perfect. All right. So we'd love to know more about how it was received. So not only what was the catalyst, but when you showed this to people, Were they excited? Did they see it as like, oh, this is going to change everything? Or were they resistant? Was there maybe a different response from the practitioners versus leadership, clients, all of that? I know we have some people on the call who were probably some of the first people to react to it, but Michael, could you shed some light there? Kick us off there?
Yeah, for sure. I think my very first tag management demo of any kind was probably 2010, and it immediately made sense as a concept, just because back then you would potentially have months-long deployment windows that you'd be working inside of to get new tagging deployed to a website. So you might have a fix for something or a new tag, and if you contrast that with sort of where technology and marketing were kind of interacting and the interplay, at that time, marketing innovation was kind of driving the experience org, if you will, or the customer experience online. And so there was a huge pressure to be more reactive and be quicker to deploy marketing and measurement technologies. And so really the need for tag management emerged from that gap, if you will, of like, okay, the IT deployment cycle is too long. Marketing would like to go faster. What are ways we can either speed that up, circumvent it, do whatever we need to do to basically do that? And I think it made sense to a lot of people. Marketers liked it because of those reasons. I think on the technology side, as implementers, we're like, yeah, any tool that can help us kind of do this better or do this in a more organized fashion is great. But yeah, at the time it was pretty much sort of like, yeah, like we should absolutely do this.
Awesome. Evan, anything to add there? Was there resistance for people generally, like, all right, that's clear. I got it. Here's all my money.
I mean, I can reflect my emotional roller coaster where, when I watch people
Yes, yes,
react.
please. Yeah, yeah.
I would say on the emotional roller coaster, people reacted in three ways: smartly, stupidly, and more stupidly. And, smartly, I was lucky that like people like Michael, like one of the cool things about this, and the same thing will be true for you, but it was really true for us, is it was so demoable. I could be like, okay, you're on your website, right? I'm going to change it right now. Refresh your page. Holy shit. So it was like, it was an easy thing to get. And all the people that reacted smartly, kind of were just like, yeah, this is obvious. This is very obvious. And then we move into a logistics phase, which is other reactions internally from developers and things like that, navigating that. The first stupidly was people who were like, I'm gonna keep doing it the dumb way. I like the control of writing bugs myself. And the even more stupidly was the really troublesome part, because there's a thing in this analytics industry that I've really felt strongly against for most of its history and still do today, that there's this like ease of use and non-technical people can do it. You can even put a Mr. Potato Head on the keyboard and roll it around and it'll be fine. And the even stupider reaction was all this marketing around non-technical people using this. And then we had some clients and some prospects who were like, I don't understand how I would put this on my, credit card checkout page. I'm not technical and we'd like to do this. I'm like sitting in this room saying, you are the 11th largest company in the United States of America. You should not have a non-technical person doing anything on a payment processing page. Have you ever watched like the Superman where they rounded the pennies and stole like a bazillion dollars? Like that's what somebody would do with this if, right? So this does need security. This does need governance. This does need competence. Just because a 747 has autopilot doesn't mean we put 6-year-olds in the cockpit. So we need to celebrate competence with a tool built for competent people, not lift up the Dunning-Kruger effect of people who don't know what they're getting themselves into. And that was the even stupider reaction. But fortunately, in the Ivory era, I think we're probably safeguarded from that way better than we were, because again, like there's way better governance and process built into both the Adobe side, which I don't know what it's called. I think it's launch management of tag. Watch this on the page, technology management now. Is that the name, Eric?
It'll
It-
change
It'll
tomorrow.
change soon. Don't worry.
okay, it'll change soon. But yeah, that's kind
Fine,
of the
Adobe.
the reaction. That was kind of my take on the reaction.
Okay. Perfect. I know we got some reactions in the chat and everything. And with that, we'd love to
Good.
understand, you know, not only how is the original concept received, but was the original vision ever fully realized from what you guys kind of hoped it would be? And before we start uh, having you guys answer that question, we have a little treat. We found the original satellite web page in the web archive. You guys can use this URL to go and look at
Yeah.
if you'd like.
Anyone
Give
wants to
everyone a
troll around
moment.
there?
Yeah, give everyone a
There's some
moment to take
gems.
it in. Take it in. Take it in. Um, all right,
Wow.
so I think what we'd like to do first, before we have you guys giving longer answers, we'd like to do a bit of a lightning round for each of these items. We're going to include Wes in this as well, just to give his perspective. We're going to go through, we're going to have you guys answer kind of yes or no, Evan, then Michael, then Wes for each of these items. So, is it true that satellite sped up your site, Evan?
Yes, but I don't like the whole premise.
All right, Michael.
I mean, it could.
Good. Wes.
We want it to.
Okay, okay, yeah. This is not giving me a confident feeling, but let's keep it going. Lightning round. Is it true that it made it so you had no IT resources needed, Evan?
If we did the work, yes.
Right, Michael.
I mean, I'm not an IT resource and I did it, so yeah.
That's a yes. Wes.
In today's world, absolutely not.
Okay, okay, awesome. Is it true that this got you out of tag prison, quote unquote, Evan?
Ah, so this was actually about putting tags in prison, loading
Okay.
things so they couldn't mess with your page.
Did we put the tags in prison
We did.
properly, Evan? Michael?
Yeah.
All right, Wes.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say they've been
Later,
incarcerated.
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is it true that this allowed end users to work 95% faster? Evan,
No, it was 99.9.
Michael,
Yeah, I mean, when you factor in deployment timelines, absolutely.
Wes.
Yeah, I'll say it's hard for me to answer it. I know this is yes or no, but I didn't do it the old way. So I work 100% faster than that
Yeah.
old way.
I did. It's 99.9. It's way faster.
Yeah.
All right. Did this allow you to manage multiple sites more easily, Evan?
Oh man. Yeah, but everybody did it wrong. And that's not their
My
fault. I want to be clear. We allowed them to do it wrong, but like everybody did it super wrong.
fair enough. Michael,
Yeah, we got there by doing it wrong, but we got there.
so you gotta start somewhere. Wes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if I compare it to what it would be just in custom code, it's certainly much better and much more contained.
Awesome. And final one. Did this allow centralization of tool management? Evan, I feel like this is an easy one. Easy-ish.
There were some fights along the way once we were acquired, but yeah.
Fair enough. Michael,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd say yes
Wes,
as
see you
well. Yeah.
nodding. Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Gonna give you guys a chance is there anything else you want to expound upon here as we talk about the vision being realized? Evan, anything to add?
I mean, the thing you missed is John Williams is the guy who did all this art, and he came up with this amazing idea of an IT guy in space, and he had this space helmet that had a hole that would allow his ponytail to exit the helmet into space, which was the most amazing thing ever. So all his art was like so freaking fun, so great. And we did have another thing called Tagzilla, which was really funny. It had a bunch of tags for his spines.
That's amazing. That is
Yeah.
amazing. Michael, anything else on
No,
this
I'll just
section?
say there's a lot of people on this call who remember Zool. So it's a lot of innovation.
No
Yeah.
idea what that is, but maybe
Well,
I'll look it up afterwards.
But
Sawlor can tell you.
one thing I will add that might be helpful to this crowd is know that the actual vision, satellite was a Trojan horse from the beginning. And it was a Trojan horse to get, well, not that kind of Trojan horse, not the Superman thing. It was a Trojan horse to get the industry to start looking at event data instead of just kind of the conversion data, to kind of understand that human beings use your website with lots of little parts. And the more successful they are with those parts, the more successful they are with the conversion you're chasing. And it wasn't really successful in getting people to get the point. And they kind of were like too results oriented and not understanding we're in the business of sculpting user experience. If we can sculpt it for the positive and measure those events, then we get better outcomes because we made the user experience better. So we sort of got there. But the analytics world, unfortunately, is still too kind of like how many clicks and how many conversions oriented, in my opinion. And I think that's a big opportunity for anybody in the craft just to kind of speak that gospel. It makes you a much more sophisticated practitioner.
That's huge. Evan, dropping gems. Um, and with that, let's keep it moving. I'm gonna kind of combine these next couple of questions that we have. This question around how do you feel about what tag management has become, and also where do you see things going next? We're gonna bring Wes again in to start answering these questions as well. So again, how do you feel about where it is now, where it's going? Michael, would love for you to kick us off for these two.
Yeah, I mean, current state of tag management is just industry standard, right? Everybody leverages probably a tag management solution in some capacity today in the way that they typically do. Um, in terms of where it's going, like my perspective has always been once we kind of nailed down, like, okay, how are we going to deploy tags efficiently and effectively and have good governance? Um, how do we kind of take the next step of like putting more automation in that? And actually, it goes back as far back as 2015. Stuart Schilling came to me with his idea that became an automation tool for tag management. And we're just seeing that continue to develop. I think as we go forward, it's gonna, there's two things that are gonna happen. One is we're going to start to break the web apart into human and agentic traffic, if you will. And there's already new paradigms for how that will happen. And so, like, if you look at the agent to agent protocol that was released last year, you look at WebMCP that Google just announced yesterday, like, these changes are going to start happening more and more rapidly, where we'll create probably more of an agentic web space with intelligence happening both on the user side and the site side, where interaction will occur. And you won't serve a website per se as much as you will serve an agent interaction about that website. So if you think about what we tag or why we tag it, and I think Evan's last point is actually really important here, looking at behavioral and signals of intent through event tracking and behavior tracking. Well, as a human, we go through a website, and when we're tagging that website, we're thinking about w- looking for signals of intent towards a specific set of goals or aims. So if I'm a big e-commerce website, most of the people coming, I hope, are coming to shop on my website and potentially purchase. And yet there's a subset of people who are coming maybe for customer service reasons or maybe to look at my careers page. That's always been true, but we've always solved for the biggest part of that. With the way we're moving, a visitor to the website will no longer be a human potentially. It'll maybe be an agent on behalf of that human with a prompt coming in to say, I'm coming in to do research on this topic, that your company is one of the companies that might have information on that. And then your website will respond with an agentic reply that is, here's the version of the website that's going to match exactly what you're looking for. So we're not going to do this kind of tagging forever. We're going to
Totally.
build new structures for how tags are going to fire, and we're probably going to have measurement built into that agent to agent handshake where You come in as an agent to say, here's what my user is looking for, and the website's agent says, here's the information you need, and gets you to your goal quickly. And then the signal is, hey, an agent came in with this intent, and we gave them this prompt and response, and this outcome happened. Those are all the things that we'll be measuring in the future, probably.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's that, the tag management side is going to change. It's going to have to change and evolve in this era of AI. And not only that, what is actually being tracked is going to change fundamentally as well. And I think with a more flexible way of tracking, hopefully it makes it more easy for us to adjust to this new world, new internet, where we'll be tracking things in a completely different way. Evan, do you have anything you want to chime in about how you feel about, where things are right now with tag management and where you see things going next?
Yeah, in hopes that like a tiny bit of cynicism is useful to people. Um, I think we have to remember the point of the whole exercise of analytics. And I ask a lot of analysts, like, what do you do? What would you tell a person you're for? And their answer puts them right next to Milton in the basement. Um, and I think the answer has to do with, oh, I tag and I this and I that. No, no, no. The whole exercise is so we can get better results and we can learn things faster. And if you ever meet your CEO and they ask you what you do, tell them that. And they'll value you very highly. Oh, is there anywhere you'd like us to get better results or learn something faster? And they'd be like, come with me. If you say I do beepity boopity bop, they're going to say, here's a seat open next to Milton. And that it's like literally a career defining difference if you understand the point of the exercise. So if you look at the eras, we had an era where analytics just began and it was doing just that. It was influencing people to get better results and learn things faster. And we had good collaboration. And then sites got more complex, and this concept of tagging became like a thing that grew into a whole job because of the complexity. And that job wasn't really tied to making better business results and learning things faster, but it was very much part of that workflow. Then comes satellite, and all of a sudden, with 99.9% time savings, you have a rejuvenated opportunity to help people get better results and learn things faster. And that's what analysts went back to doing. And then somehow they filled their time back up again, specializing in tagging. And now we've got this and a bunch of other adjacent things that are going to happen. So I think it's just the cynicism of like, remember why you're doing this in the first place, why this craft even exists, and fuel your energy into getting better business results and learning things faster. And what's interesting in the current like political, not political, but like the politics of companies is that companies are really bad at getting better results and learning faster because the red tape and the optics of like learning. There are product managers out there, 90% of them, who don't want to learn faster because they're afraid of how it would make them look. One of the most beautiful things of agentic AI is that it's going to replace those product managers. And then the data is going to talk to an AI that will get better business results and learn faster because it's not worried about politics. So we're entering an era where this will all work better and work the way it's supposed to. And I would just maybe think a little bit about, what that means for you in that era and reposition yourself as a source of better business results and faster learning that is equally compatible with today as it is tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Evan. That was wonderful. We'll have Wes finish us up on this question with a little bit of our, Moonbird perspective, our visionary, fearless leader. Where do you see things going next with tag management?
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, Evan and Michael. I echo what you guys are saying. Right now, when we talk about the state of things today, the picture that comes to my mind constantly, and I say this a lot, is we're on kind of this hamster wheel. Like new tagging or new data collection goes out, a new feature on a website or mobile app or a streaming platform or whatever, and then very quickly it breaks or it's discovered it's broken 6 months, a year down the line, and then it's got to be fixed. And it has created an entire industry of practitioners that are skilled and expert enough to be able to address that hamster wheel world. But the problem with that is the promise of of data collection, that it will make you an insights driven company or a data driven, you'll be able to make data driven decisions is never really fully realized. And for myself over the last 10 years of implementing in this space, I've it's much, much smaller the list of companies that have been data driven in an effective way to what you're saying, Evan, versus the ones that are just hamster wheeling out a bunch of data collection that's not being leveraged and not being used, and no insights are being drawn and things like that. So, in my view of where it is today, that is the state of things across a lot of enterprise companies. And we think where it's going is to this point where data collection and healthy data collection and data that is actually yielding insights is just table stakes for companies. So, whatever the internet looks like, whatever the data collection scenarios are, however, we have to adapt and react and be flexible in that, you know, reality that's on the horizon. The hope would be that companies are now, it's table stakes. It's not, well, we have the team and we have the money to throw at it. So now we can be insight driven and other companies can't. I think it gets democratized because the tedious nature of a lot of this, the manual nature of a lot of this doesn't have to be that way forever. And so I think that we start having the smart people that are doing a lot of this tedious work transitioning into roles that are more strategy driven, where a human's strengths and a human's nuance and uniqueness can actually be leveraged in ways that bring results and drive companies into better places. But yeah, it's getting off that hamster wheel. Like we always say, the future of AI or the future of analytics, we think is AI centric. That doesn't, you know, that's pretty obvious to conclude just where things are going. But you know, we're starting to see it trickle. And once things are integrated, we say this term a lot as well. Integrated AI is useful AI. Our goal with Ivory was to integrate into the workflow so it wasn't a copy and paste in and out of tools or whatever. So yeah, we think the future's bright for companies that really have been hoping to put on the big boy pants of being insight driven, and now hopefully
Yeah.
we'll be able to.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wes. All right, so we have about 5 minutes. We've given you guys a lot to think about, but we'd love to see if any of you guys have questions for Evan, for Michael, for Wes. Feel free again to raise your hands. Kind of, I would say anything goes within reason, but you know, with this group, with what's been going on in the chat, I'm not sure I should say that. All right, any questions? Any questions? You guys see anything in the chat? I don't have the chat open.
No, not yet.
And if there aren't any, that is okay. We got Neil. Neil, go ahead.
This is for Evan and Mike. You know, we've been in this business 20 odd years.
What?
Think back
Come
to
on,
about
man. Just you didn't have to say the number.
I had a call with somebody who we all know too, and we kind of looked at each other going, we've been doing this way too long. And sometimes the 20 years smacks you in the face. Evan and Mike, think back to about, I guess, 3 years ago when Chat GPT just smacked us across the head. Did you have any like envision that as we sit here right now with Moonbird, that Mark and Wes could create something like this? Like the evolution of what's been going on.
3 years ago, no,
Right? Okay.
but not long after that. I mean, this is important to see what writing is on the wall. Um, and a lot. It's funny that article went around about AI on Twitter a couple days ago. Like 19 million people read it or some crazy thing like that. Like, get your financial house in order. It's taking all the jobs. Hide your children. Hide your wife. Getting everybody up in here. So the the problem, most people's responses to that are like, I don't see any evidence that this is replacing jobs. Well, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. If you're judging the chicken because you're not seeing the chicken do something, that you need to look at the egg. And do you understand that eggs turn into chickens? And like this is an egg right now. And if you're good at understanding where things are going, um, yeah, I think you're a little earlier to the party of seeing what's possible. And thank goodness this team is doing exactly that.
Yeah, I'd echo that. I would say, like, in my previous response, I mentioned the automation work we were thinking about and doing way back in even 2015. So like 11 years, 12 years ago, something like that, 11 years ago. Um, but the reality is like that evolution continues and now is accelerating rapidly. And the thing to do in my view is be around the people who are kind of pushing that edge forward. Um, and you know, that's why I'm on this call today is because I want to be around the people who are pushing that edge forward. And that's why I joined Evan at Search Discovery back in 2012 because I wanted to be around the people that are pushing that edge forward. I don't really think of myself as an innovator. I think of myself more as a synthesizer and a builder within those sort of front edge solutions. But the reality is we need both of those types. We need people who can kind of clearly see the future, and then we need people who can go build effectively within that future to bring it about.
Awesome. Those are great responses. I know we got some questions in the chat, but we have 10 minutes left. We got to keep it pushing. We will make sure to circle back to any of those. Also, feel free to reach out to our team personally if you have more questions, more things that come up. I know we've been throwing a lot at you today. So before we keep it going, I want to thank Evan and Michael so much for your time and for being so pioneering in this industry. Before we keep moving. I'd love to give each of you about 30 seconds to plug whatever you'd like, speaking engagements, conferences, books, podcasts. Michael, go ahead.
Oh, this camera, this camera, this camera. Tell the people what you got going on in your
Exactly,
life.
exactly, exactly. Hot ones.
Uh, well, obviously, I want everybody to come see me in person at Measure Camp New York in March, and or Marketing Analytics Summit Santa Barbara in April, or Measure Camp Chicago in September. I do have a podcast, the Analytics Power Hour, which some of you may have heard of. And yeah, I do work on the strategy side of analytics with companies, and we do also execution. So if you know people who need that help, I mean, there's so many people on this call that are amazing. So huge shout out to everybody else here as well. And yeah, big ups to the Moonbird team. Like this is, um, bringing a product to market is exceptionally difficult work, and the passion and investment you all have made to kind of bring this to life, I'm super proud of you. So plug in you guys too.
Thanks, Michael. All right, Evan, your plug.
Mm. I don't know that I have a lot to hawk. I don't know that what I do these days is is relevant. I kind of left the analytics industry, although I still do some coaching with some analytics leaders, and I love that. Kind of in the spirit of what I said, that most analytics teams are not understood by their company what they're there for and why they're valuable. And that starts with leaders fixing that. So I do a lot of coaching in that area and just love to help people out. I do build some courses and stuff. I don't know that I have anything ready to kind of talk about right now, but I try to help people with key topics about leadership and influence and culture and stuff like that, how to be more articulate, convincing, etc. So keep an eye out for courses if that's your sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, if you want to hear me complain about how broken the world is, follow me on Twitter, and you have that resource in your life.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again to the both of you. All right. The moment some of you have probably been waiting for, the Raffle for AirPod Pros or the Android equivalent. Mark, would you like
All
to
right.
get that going? And remember, stay after the raffle. We still have a beta feature to show you guys.
Yeah, there's more. There's more. All right, so we still have a couple of people left. We might have to give this thing a couple of spins. So everyone get ready for with your to unmute or to raise your hand. We're gonna give it a spin. If you're here, let us know. Don't wait too long, or else we're just gonna keep on spinning. So let's see. Here we go.
That poor bird.
Right.
Stenyan, I'm checking the list. Not
Yeah,
here.
bro.
Not here.
Oh, bye-bye.
Remove and
Going
do
again.
it again. All right.
And
Let's
Healy, I
see.
did see your drone comment earlier. That was good.
I had to do a deep
Oh,
cut, Evan.
Ken Williams.
Is Ken still
Ken
here?
make it?
Ken's
Ken's
still
here.
here.
Ken still here?
Ken's
He's got to come
here.
off mute.
I see him.
Is
He's
he here?
here.
Is he present? Is he really here? All right.
I don't know. Maybe he walked away.
He's multitasking. He hasn't returned to one of my chats
He's
yet.
Oh, I don't know.
Ken,
Multitasking. Where's
Oh,
Ken
there he
there he
is.
is.
There he
He was
is.
away from the microphone for a minute. Hey
You could have
guys.
I
just
know what
had
it's like.
your Claude bot respond, Ken. Jeez.
The Molt bot. Yeah, almost.
Ken, you're getting some
Awesome.
new AirPod Pros.
Oh, thank you. Hey, wait a minute.
Oh, wow. Must know what we're doing to win.
Yeah.
And he's spinning again.
I don't have them right here. My old AirPods are totally dead as of this weekend, so this is perfect timing. Thank you guys.
You know
They
what?
do charge. You don't have to throw them away when they die.
That's hilarious. I didn't even need to share my screen again. So we're so close to being done, guys. We have 5 minutes left. I'm going to pass it off to Wes. For everyone who's stuck around, thank you so
Thank
much,
you
first
so
of all,
much.
because it's been a while. But we want to show you guys a feature that we have in beta that we're really, really excited about.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and share my screen. You guys see Adobe Tags?
I hope it's a feature for me that says, make this easy for Julie.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's more AirPod Pros. You get AirPod Pros. Um I assume you see Adobe Tags. So, there's so much talk about Web SDK, AEP, etc. There's Eric asked earlier if Ivory is compatible with Web SDK. It is. Anything you can implement in Adobe Tags, you can leverage Ivory to do. But the big use case that we're working on and will be releasing soon is this ability to migrate. So right now, you've got X number of companies out there that are Adobe Analytics clients that want to move to CJA, and to do so, the best approach is to get on the Web SDK. That is a difficult thing to do today. We have created a feature for Ivory that enables you to take an app measurement based rule like this one and simply click and drag it into Ivory, and it will convert the appropriate components that need to be converted to get you onto Web SDK faster, safer, more standardized, and easier, which is what really we're after. So as you can see, that app measurement, oh, where's that? Maybe that one didn't have anything it was setting. Let's do another one. So these app measurement, that's one that was already converted. App measurement based rules that get converted. Here's one to Web SDK with a few clicks, and we get a Web SDK rule. So this is coming soon. We know that this is a huge part of what's going on in the Adobe ecosystem today, and we're really excited to bring something that will impact those timelines, impact those costs, et cetera, for your clients. So reach out, stay tuned, and just know that this is on the horizon.
That's the sound of $1 billion of consulting revenue disappearing.
Bye.
Well, awkward silence
Sorry,
on
not
that
sorry.
one.
With that,
Thought we were at fixed fee by now.
It's
right?
not
I mean, there's still
disappearing,
another
it's
billion left
migrating.
over. It's just half.
What Evan is really selling is career transition services for everybody who's about to move their job.
Yeah.
Person still has to supervise it.
All right, y'all.
Sarah,
We
did you
are.
want to? Yeah, there we go. This last slide.
Yep. Last slide. All right, y'all. It's live. You can get started today at ivory.moonbird.ai. We have a 14-day free trial. We currently have some early bird pricing. You'll want to lock that in because that will not be the price for ever. But currently, with our current standard plan at $250 a month, obviously post free trial, you can affect unlimited properties, prompts, tag generation, bulk, and bulk operations. We really can't wait to have you guys start using it. We've already been using it internally. And yeah, it's an absolute game changer. So
Yeah.
that's it, y'all. That's
Feedback.
what we have here.
Feedback
We
link in
are
the bottom, please. When
yes,
you're
yes.
using
We
it,
would
we will be
we would
watching, listening. Yes, embracing any and all feedback you have.
exactly. All right, y'all, that's all we have. Thank you so much for everyone who stuck around for this entire hour and a half. It really means the world to us. So reach out if you have anything, need anything, have any thoughts. But again, have a good rest of your day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you guys.
Happy Valentine's Day. It's a
Awesome.
Valentine's Day gift
Thanks, everybody.
for you
Awesome.
all.